Welcome to a day in the life of a concrete pumper. I'm going to try and do this in a three-part series. Day one will be a day rolling around from start of day to end of day, pumping a couple jobs, what I would consider to be the average day as a pumper. Video number two, we'll sit down and we'll chat with a few guys that have done this for a number of the years, see why they chose this career path and how it's treated them financially, as well as how it's treated them in terms of work-life balance, etc. And video number three, the one everybody probably wants to see, pay and remuneration. How does it pay? How much money can I make? How well will I be compensated for my time? So that'll be the third video. So thank you for joining me on this adventure. Let's get to it. It is approximately 6 a.m. We've just arrived to the yard here. It's our very modest little plot of land here. A lot of times you may see these fancy shiny trucks rolling around and think that they're all stationed out of some big fancy yard, but the reality is, for the most part, just going to be something simple and basic like this. We do have a secondary yard, which is a lot more elaborate than what we got here, but this is just your basic stuff. Extra hoses, water supply, tools for cleaning the truck, tools and supplies for cleaning the truck. So we're going to start off with here. First thing in the morning, first thing we do, pre-trip. So this book here, a better shot of it, this book here is basically your Bible. Consider it your Bible. We start off with things like checking the oil, checking the coolant, checking the tires, checking the brakes, and then we carry on to checking things that are pump related. Hoses, clamp couplings, safety pins, fluids for the pump unit itself, all those sorts of things. Everything on this sheet should be done every day. If everything on this sheet is done at the beginning of the day, as well as some items for the end of the day, the PM checklist, the basic job description is getting fulfilled. So like I said, this here is the Bible. So I'm gonna get cracking here and go through the pre-trip on this truck. Our job site is about half an hour away. I'm gonna give myself 45 minutes travel time to get there, because you never know in the city. And if I don't encounter any backlog in traffic, I might stop and grab a hot beverage. If I do encounter traffic, I will just carry on to the site. So it's all about time management here, really. So we'll get cracking on the pre-trip here and check back in a little bit. All right, pre-trip is done. We are ready to roll. So what I should say here, the intention behind this video is just to debrief those who may be interested in getting into this industry, give them a pretty good breakdown of what the average day is like as a concrete pump operator. Today we are set up with pretty much the perfect, what I would consider to be average day. We got two jobs. Our first job is on site for 7:30 a.m. Our second one is on site for 11 a.m. Pretty standard stuff. I would say 5:30 to 6:30 a.m. start time at the yard is pretty standard for concrete pumping. It's a pretty good average safe bet. Yeah, sometimes you might start a bit later, sometimes a smidge earlier, but 5:30 to 6:30 is pretty standard. A lot of new guys ask, what do I wear? Well, we have supplied coveralls, full length supplied coveralls, so that's what you wear. And then the standard steel-toed boots, hard hat, that kind of stuff. So before we go, seeing as this video is intended to cater towards those who are not experienced concrete pumpers, let's go over the basic stuff. The basic principle is you have a hopper, concrete truck backs up, dumps concrete into the hopper. Concrete pump has two alternating cylinders and a valve, pushes the concrete from the hopper out of the discharge outlet through these rubber hoses or steel pipes, depending on the job, up to, geez, I'm going to say up to 1,000 feet to get the concrete where it needs to go. Your typical job, your average job, is going to be about 125 to 175 feet of rubber line filled with concrete. And really what it comes down to, what the job is really all about, aside from the safety factor, we'll touch on a few of those things as we go, is knowing the concrete that's going into your pump and knowing what size line to pump it through. Whether you need steel pipes, 3-inch hoses, 2.5-inch diameter hoses, or 2-inch hoses. And that's all stuff that really just comes with experience. That is kind of the learning curve of concrete pumping. Once you can get the hang of that and get the hang of, if the lines do plug, if the concrete plugs in the line, tracking down that plug and clearing the plug, really, as far as running the line pump here, which is where everybody starts out, you've really kind of got the hang of it. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Not so much. Takes time. For most guys, before they're really proficient at this, really proficient at it, I'm going to say at least a year. You can be competent at it, competent enough such that you can run the truck solo. Usually within about 3 to 4 months is what I'm going to say, but before you're really good at it and comfortable with it, I'm going to say about a year's time. So it is a bit of a learning curve. It requires some patience, determination, and it really comes down to how keen you are to learn, because the more keen you are to learn, the easier this job will be for you. Generally speaking, if you're looking for a driving job or a job where you're just going to kind of punch in, punch out, just show up and do the bare minimum, this will be a struggle. Pumping concrete to a large extent is really about as difficult as you want to make it, is what it comes down to. So you really have to take an interest in this. And it might sound funny to listen to this as somebody who's never done it before, but once you get into it, you would be surprised how it'll rope you in. And actually, I would almost say it's fun, and the days go by rather quick for what it is. And the guys that seem to last in the industry and excel in the industry would probably agree with me. The ones who don't probably won't, because they probably didn't, and it didn't work out, to be totally honest. So anyhow, enough of the jibber jabber. We're gonna get on the road, head off to our first job, and we'll just touch on the really basic stuff today. We don't get too detailed, we won't get too in depth. This is just kind of an introduction to a day in the life of a concrete pumper. All right, we made it. Traffic wasn't bad, so we're gonna top this girl up with fuel. Sometimes I'll do it at the start of the day, sometimes I'll do it at the end of the day, depending on the situation. But we got a little bit extra time here, so we'll just top her up and go in and grab a beverage. Okay, so here we are at our first job, and this is a good first job. This is about as easy of a job as you're ever gonna see for a line pump here. So basically what we're gonna do, we're gonna pull the pump up, get the back end or the hopper to about the midpoint of the garage. We're just gonna run 1 or 2 pieces of hose and pour out these 2 slabs. So literally less than 50 feet of hose. Stuff like this, most important things. These neighbors are probably gonna have to get out, so at least take that in consideration. We'll park the pump over as far this way as possible to impede the neighbors' access to their garage as little as possible. So it is a constant challenge with working in the city, just trying to keep everybody happy. So, but a very important concern. So we'll get cracking. All right, so we're all lined up here, ready to go. Just a couple pieces of hose. We're using the smaller 2-inch hose today. I know to use the 2-inch hose because I know the mixes that we're working with today, and I know they will pump just fine through the small 2-inch hose. So, basic principles of concrete pumping. You have to lubricate that rubber line before putting concrete in it. The dry rubber line will suck moisture out of the first bit of concrete that enters in it, and it'll dry it out and turn it into a ball of sand. So what we use is bentonite, powdered bentonite. We mix it with water. Basically, we end up with a bucket of essentially mud, and we'll dump a little bit of this in the hose here. Just like that. We don't need much because we don't need don't have a lot of hose on. We'll pump that stuff through. Make sure it doesn't go into the finished slab because it's mud. It will never harden up. It will never harden up like concrete. So they'd end up with a soft spot in their garage. We don't want that. Anyhow, that's pretty much one of the most important things of the job here. Knowing which size line to use and lubricating it properly for priming the hoses out. Once you can do that, you are away to the races. All right, so our friendly driver is going to fill the hopper with concrete. see it come down the chute here. What's that? The money shot. That's right. We call this the money shot. Here is the money shot. So that is about a 4-inch slump. I'll touch on that later, what exactly slump means, but it's a reference to how wet or dry the concrete is. So that is exactly what we want here. So we're just going to start pumping this out real slow. Of course, we'll make sure that our placers are ready. Ready to rock? Ready to rock. And as that concrete fills the hose here, we'll follow it along. And with the plugs, we will feel it right away. You'll feel the hose start to get heavy as it fills with concrete. And you can hear it. You can hear it going through the hose right now. See that? That's full. This is light. Most likely spot for a plug is going to be at a coupling point at a junction. And we'll see the first bit of slop come out of this hose. We'll see why we don't want that in this lab. Mud, 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 mud. Concrete. Just like that, we are primed through. Once the concrete is through, it is essentially self-lubricating. Rick wants a little more here just to be safe. Good. Perfect. Okay. Load her up. Away we go. Alright, we got a plug. Here's an example of a plug. Look at this. Here we go. This is going to go tighter. We'll load up. Just like that. So we'll put it in reverse, back it off. Leave the pressure. Break it apart, see what's in there. My suspicion is a rock. Let's see. Go back to the hose here, see what's in the hose. Oh yeah. A rock. Plug found. We'll reconnect.
The screen went off.
It's okay. It's the same color.
Better, man. I'm offended.
Plug is relieved. We will recommence pumping. We'll just put a little bit of pressure on this, make sure it's moving.
Look at it.
We're good. Okay. And once you're pumping, that's basically what you're going to be doing all day. Oh, now we got another one. Wow, okay. So Rick here on the placing crew is just going to pour this out. My job as the pump operator is to pull the hose back when he wants or needs me to pull it back. Just to make his job easier. We don't stand around and do nothing. Always keep busy pulling the hose for the guy on the end of the hose. You help them, they will help you. You'll see why in our next job here, why that's so critically important. Alright, so we've just pulled the concrete truck ahead so that this friendly neighbor can get out, because that is what we do. We are polite, cordial, and professional at all times. If a neighbor needs to get out, we will stop the pour, we will move the ready mix truck ahead, we will move the pump ahead, we will do whatever we have to do to act as professionals. Okay, we're all packed up here. Big question of the day. How do you get the hoses up there? Manual labor. There are more advanced techniques to avoid using manual labor, but we'll show you the staple method right here. We'll break it off. Lift it up. About a third of the way from the end. Right there. Go to the vacuum block. Come back and you roll the other half out. Just like that. Roll it back the other way here a bit. And how do we rinse them? Find my nozzle here. Rinse off the end. Put in about a liter of water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You roll the water through real quick through the one end. Like so. Grab the other end. Rinse off the flange of the coupling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Roll it through real quick.
And the next big one.
Right. Like that. Throw it on the truck. Quarter of the ladder. Like so. Pretty easy. Remember, we're dealing with the lightest, smallest line, the 2-inch line, and we only had 50 feet of it here. So you imagine, say you had 12 of those hoses out, and they were the bigger 3-inch lines. It can be quite a job, can be quite labor intensive. But that's how we drain them out by hand. As a new trainee, that is the way you will drain them out. As you gain more experience, there are other methods, using compressed air, using vacuum to suck the concrete back in the hopper, so on and so forth. But that's not something we get into within the first few months of pumping. So that is the labor intensive part of the job right there. All right, we're just packing up here. It is 9:30 a.m. Our next job is slated for concrete at 10:30 a.m. It's about 20 minutes down the road. Now before we go here, any of these piles here, piles of concrete, we're going to kick them down, make them the least bit unsightly. Just like so. We don't leave big mounds of concrete for the builder to deal with. Nice and thin so they can break it up if they want to. Just something like that. Anyhow, we'll roll out to our second job now. Alright, one garage poured in. This is set up for a couple hours. Guys will get on it with the machine and make it nice and smooth and pretty. In the meantime, let's jump in here and we'll hit the road to the next one. All right, so for however easy that first job was, the second job more than makes up for it. We were gonna pull every single one of these hoses off this side of the pump and string them all the way out to the beach. I'll show you that in a bit. As I mentioned earlier about helping the finishers out, and the finishers will reciprocate. Perfect example. I'm just whipping the hoses off the truck here and the guys are dragging them out for me. So what goes around comes around. All right, we are in position here at the second job. What I always do, driving in wet weather like this, roads are covered in grime and whatnot. Anytime I get to my next destination, I rinse all that grime. I rinse it off the pump. I do this every time I stop during the day. I do it at the end of the day when I get back to the yard, and the pump stays clean. There's no need to mess around with a soap and a brush unnecessarily, wasting time, because I know it's going to rain tomorrow. It's in the forecast. We're in Vancouver. It rains pretty much every day. So I just do this, stay on top of it all day. Work smart, not hard. Yes, a quick little rinse. It's the little things and being proactive which eventually makes this occupation easier. So, let's help the boys here. We'll string all these clamps together and concrete should be here very shortly. All right, so we're all set up here. Before we take a tour down to the beach and I show you the layout, very, very important thing of note here. Everything at the back end of the pump, where all that pressure is, safety pin. Everything gets safety pin. This is where the ready mix drivers are generally standing, so everything that's in with their, or within their vicinity gets safety pins on it. Also, we're going to attach this heavy rubber blast mat, which will hang over and guard those pieces in case there ever were a failure. That heavy rubber mat will dampen the blow for the guys who are working behind it. So we'll just toss this on right now. Like so. Just like that, everybody's safe. All right, so as we're waiting on concrete here, let's take a walk down to the beach and we'll show you what we're pouring today. Being that we're in Vancouver, to do a lot of work at higher end homes, so cleanliness and professionalism is of the utmost importance. So we got our hose stretched all the way out here, all the way down to the beach. We are going to pour concrete slab in here, concrete wall there.
Don't forget this one here.
And this one here. Don't forget this one here.
And we might be putting whatever's left over, we're going to pump it here. He's going to throw gravel in there.
Okay.
And we're going to put some kind of a base in there that we're going to build on later.
Okay. Excellent. So yeah, concrete should be here in about 20 minutes. So we will head back to the pump and get ready. Here we go, bentonite and hose time. All right, so here we are, pumping away, job number 2. And what I'm always doing while I'm pumping, periodically I'm coming back, check on the hoses, make sure they're not rubbing or chafing on anything. These hoses now are worth about $800 to $900 each. So if you put a hole in one, it's not a good thing, obviously. Not only that, but if you rub a hole through one and concrete sprays out before you notice it, covers a house, covers a car, covers a person. It's just a bad situation all around. Come back and check on everything. Perfect, yeah. It's funny how much it dries up by the end of this stuff. Wow. Yeah. You see the concrete going in the pump. When you put it under pressure and you push it all that distance, it will dry it up a lot. You see here I tied this hose off because it was rubbing on that plywood. But yeah, this is a good run here. This is about 250 feet of hose. So the first job we did there was beginner level. This one here I would call a moderate level. So a good challenge for sure. All right, so here we are, 1 p.m. Finally got a little break between trucks. We just backed the new truck on. While he gets ready, I will take my quote-unquote lunch break. It's one of the toughest adjustments to make getting into this business. There's no such thing as a scheduled lunch break. So you got to eat while you can. That being said, always pack a lunch. I have this little 12-volt oven, crock pot, whatever you want to call it. Runs off a little power inverter. And I got hot and ready food in about an hour. Today's menu consists of rice on the top, chili on the bottom. There you go. Anyhow, I'll smash this down while I've got a couple minutes here, literally a couple minutes. There are days where you'll end up with lots of breaks, waiting on concrete, waiting on all sorts of variables. But a lot of days are like today where it's just go, 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 and that's how it's been. So, all right, it is 2:15. We've pumped all the concrete in here. We're just gonna break things off and start cleaning up here. All in all, not a bad pour. Lots of plugs on this one. But that's not out of the norm. So,
Thanks, Chuck.
let's see what we got here.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Okay, do you want me to wait till they got the bulkhead in before we clean the lines out?
I can, yeah, if you don't mind.
Yep. Okay, I'll wait till you pop that in. I'll get ready on my end, and then we'll purge all the lines into the pour area. Perfect. Perfect. All right, now that the job is all pumped in, last thing to do here on site, we're gonna clean the pump out on site. Quite often we need to we're unable to clean the pump out on site just because of environmental concerns. There isn't a spot that's safe to do so, where water's not going to run off into a storm drain, so on and so forth. We will take the pump back to a designated washout facility, but today we're in a nice safe area we can clean out right here. Essentially what cleaning out consists of is the concrete that remains in the hopper of the pump. We're going to dump that out. And how you do that is there's a trap door on the bottom here. We're just going to knock this open. There goes all that waste concrete. And you can see the two cylinders in there. I'll put the pump in the cycle mode here. Alternating cylinders. We're going to take our water hose and spray water up into those cylinders and also through the valve here. And what we do, we spray until the water comes out of there clear. Once the water's clear, we know that the pump is clean. We'll take our high pressure water hose here. We're going to rinse all this residual concrete down. Sometimes after a long day you might get some concrete buildup. What you'll do then is shut the pump off. We'll lift up this safety grate and we have a little air chisel and we'll chisel all that off, but we have no such issues today. Now we'll come in the back and we're going to flood out this valve. Flood this out with water. We're basically going to keep spraying here until water falls out of that cylinder, nice and clean. And it does take quite some time. One of the most critical things you'll do in the day is this process here. Because if you don't get it right, it can cost thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars in damage and delays. So we always make sure that we take our time with this part and we get it right. We'll go back in the valve side with the water. Like I said, we're just going to keep working at this until that water comes out clear, until we don't see any gravel and rock at the ends of those delivery cylinders. And all it is two alternating pistons and the valve which switches back and forth to direct the flow of the concrete. Very, very simple. We're pretty much there. Stop the pump. We'll lift up this safety grate. Like so. And we'll spray all this concrete out from under the valve. Sometimes it needs a little persuasion with a breaker bar. But today it looks like we'll get it just with pressurized water here, which is always a good day. And then I'll just finish this up and we will check in for a little bit of maintenance before we roll out of here. Here it is, the most important part of the day. Every single time we wash the pump out, which can be after every job, or sometimes we do multiple jobs and we only wash out once at the end of the day. But every time we wash out, we use the greaser here. We have all these grease points here on the main block, and then you've got one here, one in behind here, one here, and one more in behind here. Every single one of these grease points is vital. We'll just use this one for an example. Where that seal is there, I'm going to put the grease gun on, we'll pump some grease through until it's good. Grease gun is on. We keep going till we see grease come through there. Here it comes. And just like that, we're good. You see all the concrete it pushes out of there too? And for the rest of the grease points, you want to have the pump cycling so the grease can get into all the bearings, the front and the back of the valve, into the shift cylinders and whatnot. And we just go through one by one by one, and we put about 10 pumps of grease in each one of those. And we do that every single day, every time we're done washing out. Zero exceptions. If you forget that even one time, potentially thousands of dollars in damage. So probably one of the most important things you could ever learn in your pump training. Just like that. If we look at all our seals, we should be able to see grease weeping out. A little tough to see from this angle, but it is, it's there. That's what we're after. All right, just like that, we are done. It's about 3:15 and we are done our second job. This is playing out to be a very typical day time-wise. We've double checked, we've got everything back on the truck. All our clamps, all our hoses, our hammer, any tools we had off, any other accessories. So we are good to go. We're gonna head back to the yard now, and yeah, we'll check back in when we get there. All right, here we are back at the yard. Looks like the sun's out. It's gonna remain that way for the duration of tomorrow. So we're gonna take the time here, soap and a brush on the truck. Normally if the following day calls for rain, I'll just give the truck a quick rinse and park it. It's gonna get dirty 20 feet after it rolls out the gate anyhow and the roads are wet, but tomorrow will be nice, so we'll tickle her up with the hose here. Once we're done that, we'll throw the hose in the water tank, fill our water tank back up, and then just a little bit of paperwork. We'll do our invoices, and then that's pretty much it. So we'll check in here when we're doing a little bit of paperwork and for some final thoughts and whatnot. All right, we're just working on our pro trip paperwork here. Run around the pump. We grab the pump hours off the hour meter on the back panel here. Go in the cab, we grab the engine hours, and then we check off all the boxes, checking that we've cleaned everything. Those are all just to-do checklists at the end of the day. So wrap all that up, and then we'll jump on to writing up a couple of job tickets. All right, so paperwork is all done. When we're in our main yard, we just throw these invoices in the box. When we're from this remote yard here, this satellite location, we just screenshot them and we send them into the office via email. So to summarize for today, this is a pretty good day, or pretty good example of the perfect average day for a concrete pumper. What we ended up with is we started at 6 a.m. We finished up here at 5 p.m. So you got an 11-hour day. When I get into the third video I'm going to do as far as wages and remuneration, we'll calculate out, you know, what a day's pay is for an average day like this. Somebody looking into this as a career, you got to have some mechanical aptitude. That's going to go a long ways if you know your way around a toolbox. You have to be a person that can be away from your phone and social media for 6 to 10 hours. I know that's, you might kind of laugh at that, but today's day and age, it is increasingly difficult to find. A very important thing, not a job you're going to be glued to your phone to all day. You just can't do it and perform the basic job description. Really, you got to be a person that takes pride in what they do, obviously. You got to be motivated. You got to be self-motivated. You have to be punctual. And honestly, you got to want to make money. If you're not motivated to make money, you're probably not going to enjoy this as a career, because that is the greatest byproduct of all of this hard work, is you can make a really good living doing this kind of work, and there's not too many people that want to do it these days. So if you can get trained up to operate this equipment, the world is your proverbial oyster. So anyhow, this will be the end of the first video. Like I said, we'll do a second video where we'll talk to some guys who have chosen this as a career and have done it for a few years and kind of get their story and get a little feedback from them. And then we'll do a third video where we talk about what everybody wants to hear about, which is the pay. And I think you'll like that one. At least I think you'll like it. So we'll see. Anyhow, catch you on the next one. That concludes a day in the life of a concrete pumper. So over and out.